I always knew I was adopted. My father, James Richardson, never kept that secret from me. But what my sister Katherine didn't know was that adoption wasn't the only secret in our family. I'm Emma Chin, and at 32, I became the CEO of Richardson Global Enterprises. This news caused my sister to have a big public meltdown. But let me start from the beginning. Dad adopted me when I was 6 after my biological parents died in a car accident in Hong Kong. He was there for business and visited an orphanage as part of his charity work. He noticed a quiet Asian girl, reading advanced math books in a corner. 3 months later, I had a new home, a new sister, and a dad who saw something in me that would change both our lives. Katherine, who was 2 years older than me, never accepted me. While Dad saw my potential, she saw me as competition. While I was diving into business books and learning about investments, she focused on being the perfect socialite, the natural heir to the family wealth. Blood will always matter more than paper, she'd say when Dad wasn't around. What none of them knew was that Dad had been preparing me to take over his company since I was 12. Those weren't just casual conversations about business at breakfast. They were lessons. The summer internships weren't just to keep me busy, they were training. By the time I finished my MBA, I knew everything about Richardson Global Enterprises. Dad kept my training a secret, not out of shame, but because of strategy. He always said, the best moves are the ones your opponents don't see coming. Katherine married Trevor Williams, the heir to a banking fortune, in what the society pages called the merger of the decade. What no one knew was that Trevor's bank had been struggling with bad investments, but Dad and I knew. We had been secretly buying up their debt through shell companies for months. When Dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, he called me to his study one night. It's time, he said, handing me a thick envelope. Everything's prepared. Just remember what I taught you. Patience is the deadliest weapon in business. He passed away 3 weeks later. The funeral was exactly how Katherine wanted it. Lavish, public, and designed to highlight her as the grieving daughter. I quietly stayed in the back, as she'd asked, not wanting to confuse people about my place in the family. No need to confuse people about your place, she said with a cold smile. After the service, during the reception at our family estate, Katherine made her move. She clinked her glass to get everyone's attention, her black designer dress matching her crocodile tears perfectly. I want to thank everyone for coming to honor my father, she began, emphasizing that family meant everything to him. As his only true child, I know he wanted us to be honest today. She turned to me, her smile sharp as a knife. Emma, dear, I think it's time we stop pretending you were just a charity case, a tax write-off. Dad's accountant suggested you're not real family, and it's time for you to go. The room went silent. 200 of New York's elite waited for my response. Trevor smirked beside Katherine, probably already spending the inheritance in his mind. I stood slowly, straightened my simple black dress, and smiled. Of course, Katherine, you're right. We should stop pretending. I walked to the door, then turned back. See you at the well reading. Don't bother, she called after me. Dad's lawyers already confirmed everything goes to his real heir. I just smiled again. We'll see. 2 days later, in the main conference room of Richardson Global Enterprises, Katherine's perfect world crumbled. The lawyer began, "This is the last will and testament of James Patrick Richardson." Katherine sat at the head of the table, already holding a pen to sign the transfer papers. To my daughter Katherine Belvedere, I leave the following. Your trust fund will continue untouched, providing you the same monthly allowance you currently receive. Katherine's smile quickly faded. That's it. Where's the rest? To my daughter Emma, the lawyer continued, I leave controlling interest in Richardson Global Enterprises, all associated companies, properties, and assets, effective immediately. The pen dropped from Katherine's hand. That's impossible. She's not even a Richardson. I spoke up for the first time. Actually, I am. Dad legally changed my name years ago, and I've been serving as the company's shadow CEO for the past 5 years. No, Katherine whispered, her voice full of disbelief. No, no, no. Security, she shouted. I pressed the intercom button. Please escort Miss Williams out of the building. Her access has been revoked. As security approached, Katherine knocked over her chair. You can't do this. I'm his real daughter. Being real family isn't about blood, Katherine, I said quietly. It's about trust, loyalty, and vision. Dad understood that. I'm sorry you never did. I'll fight this, she screamed as security led her out. You'll never get away with stealing my birthright. I sat down in the CEO's chair, my chair. I already knew the real war was just beginning, but Dad had prepared me well. I had plans Katherine couldn't even imagine. As her screams echoed down the hallway, I opened my laptop and started making the changes that would reshape the Richardson empire, beginning with the Williams family bank. Katherine's meltdown hit social media before she even made it to her car. Someone in the conference room had recorded her screaming about her fake sister stealing her birthright. The video went viral. Within hours, #Richardson drama was trending, with people divided between supporting the rightful heir and the secret CEO's sister. I watched it all unfold from Dad's old office, my office now, while signing the papers that would start Katherine's financial downfall. She'd made her choice at the funeral, and now she would learn why Dad had always said I was the better strategist. The next morning, her first move came, a lawsuit challenging the will, claiming I had manipulated our father during his illness. Her lawyers filed emergency papers to freeze the company's assets. I had expected this. In fact, I counted on it. Release the documents, I instructed my legal team. Within hours, every major news outlet received copies of my official adoption papers. My legal name changed to Emma Richards Chin, and most devastatingly, video recordings of Dad explaining his choice of successor. He'd made those recordings during his last month, knowing Katherine would challenge the will. I choose Emma, he said in the video, looking directly at the camera. Not because Katherine is inadequate, but because Emma is exceptional. She's been running this company in the shadows for 5 years, turning record profits, while her sister was planning charity galas. Blood doesn't make a CEO, vision does. Katherine's lawsuit was dismissed within days, but I wasn't finished. Remember those shell companies buying up Williams Bank debt? The day after Katherine's lawsuit failed, Richardson Global called in all the loans. Trevor's family bank, already struggling, was now facing immediate bankruptcy. Katherine showed up at my office, her designer outfit slightly wrinkled, a rare sight for someone who never had a hair out of place. "You vindictive," she spat. "You're destroying Trevor's family." I looked up from my computer. "Actually, you did that when you kicked me out of Dad's funeral. Actions have consequences, Katherine. Dad taught us that." Well, one of us was paying attention. "He was my father," she snapped. "He was our father. But while you were playing society princess, I was learning how to run his empire. Did you really think those summer internships were just to keep me busy? That all those breakfast meetings were just casual conversations?" Her face went pale. "Those were training sessions, every single one. Dad knew who he wanted as his successor by the time I was 12. The adoption, the name change, the secret training, everything. It was all part of his plan. You could have been part of it too, if you'd ever shown any interest in anything beyond your trust fund. I'll tell everyone," she threatened, "about how you manipulated him and turned him against his real daughter." "Go ahead," I interrupted, turning my laptop to show her the screen. "These are the records of every transaction from your trust fund for the past 5 years. The private shopping sprees disguised as charity donations, the business meetings that were actually spa days, and let's not forget the interesting transfers to Trevor's personal account, the ones that started right after you discovered his bank was failing." She sank into a chair, stunned. "How did you?" "I told you," I said. "I've been running this company for 5 years. Did you think I wouldn't monitor the trust funds?" Dad knew about all of it. He just wanted to see if he'd ever come clean. The next phase of my plan unfolded over the following weeks. As Williams Bank collapsed, Richardson Global swooped in to save it, at the cost of Trevor's family losing control. Katherine and Trevor were forced to sell their mansion, their cars, their vacation homes. Their society friends disappeared as quickly as their wealth. Funny how that happens. But the real twist came during the shareholders' meeting 3 months later. As I presented the company's record profits under my official leadership, Katherine made one last desperate move. She burst into the meeting, waving papers. "I have proof," she screamed. "Proof that she's been manipulating company funds." Security moved to remove her, but I held up my hand. "Let her speak." She brought the papers, thinking she had found a way to turn the tables. The documents she waved around were actually plans I carefully leaked through a chosen channel, plans showing massive transfers of company funds. What Katherine hadn't realized was that these transfers aligned perfectly with records of her own embezzlement, done through proxy accounts she thought were untraceable. Proof that Emma has been stealing from the company, Katherine announced triumphantly. Interesting, I replied calmly, because those transfers align perfectly with deposits made to these accounts. I projected a new set of documents on the screen, accounts registered to Katherine Williams and Trevor Williams. The room erupted in chaos. Katherine's face went from triumphant to horrified as she realized she had just publicly implicated herself in financial fraud. He set me up," she whispered. "No, Katherine," I said. "You set yourself up. I just made sure everyone could see it." The SEC investigation was brief but thorough. Katherine and Trevor were indicted on multiple counts of financial fraud. The remaining assets were frozen, and the trust fund, their last financial lifeline, was suspended pending criminal investigation. Dad would have appreciated the symmetry. The sister who relied on blood ties losing everything to the sister who learned strategy. 1 year later, I sat in my office reviewing the latest acquisition proposals. Richardson Global had doubled in size under my leadership, expanding into new markets while maintaining the ethical business practices Dad had valued. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Katherine had taken a plea deal, 2 years in a minimum security prison, followed by 5 years of probation. Trevor had fled to a non-extradition country, leaving her to face the charges alone. I picked up the photo on my desk. Dad and me at my college graduation, both of us smiling, sharing a secret the world wouldn't understand for years. "You were right, Dad," I whispered. "Patience is the deadliest weapon." A notification popped up on my screen. Katherine's auction house was selling her remaining possessions to pay legal fees. Among the items was a family photo album listed as Richardson Family Memories. I bought it anonymously and had it delivered to her prison cell with a note. "Blood isn't what makes a family. Trust is. You never understood the difference." The media eventually moved on to other scandals and other family dramas. Richardson Global continued to thrive, with its adopted CEO becoming known for both business acumen and philanthropic work, particularly supporting adoption agencies and educational programs for orphan children. Every year on Dad's birthday, I visit his grave alone. I leave 2 things: fresh flowers and a copy of the company's annual report. Last year, I added a 3rd item, a newspaper clipping about Katherine's sentence with a simple note. "You taught me well, Dad. The best moves really are the ones they never see coming." Katherine gets out of prison next year. Her trust fund is gone. Her society friends have forgotten her. And Trevor? He's sipping cocktails somewhere without an extradition treaty. Me? I'm in Dad's old office, my office, planning the company's next expansion. There's a new photo on my desk now, next to the graduation picture. Me with a group of business students and mentors, all of them adopted. All of them learning what Dad taught me. Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. And sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. Just ask Katherine. I'm sure she has plenty of time to think about that now.